Hello, I'm Miraziz Yusupov, and today I'll be talking to you about viral annihilation, an end to humankind's greatest modern plight. So let's begin by asking, what is a virus? Well, the first thing you might think of is a computer virus. However, these aren't the viruses I'll be discussing. Although they are a great problem to us, they aren't anywhere near as bad as the biological viruses I'll be talking about next. Let's first look at the appearance of a biological virus. Which one of these do you think it is? What if I told you that viruses are one of the simplest life forms we know of, to the point where we can't even tell that they're alive? If you guessed the organism on the left, you'd be wrong. That organism is called a bacteria, and it's very small. Even for its size, though, it shows remarkable complexity, as can be seen by its many parts. The virus on the right, however, only has 5 parts and is a lot less complex. So are viruses alive? Let's take a look. First, at their life properties. Viruses, like all living things, evolve through a process of natural selection. Just like these finches, viruses adapt to their surroundings and conditions. Viruses also possess genes and DNA. A large part of what a virus is tends to be its genetic code. And now let's look at why viruses might not be living. They can't reproduce by themselves, which means they need other living things to make more of themselves. In this case, a virus takes over a cell, makes copies of itself, and kills the cell. Viruses also lack metabolisms, which means they cannot control their own energy levels. As before, these viruses are injecting their own DNA into a bacterium to continue their life cycle. Are viruses alive? Since scientists cannot give us an answer, all we can say is that they're not living, but they're definitely not dead. Another aspect of viruses is their tiny size. To understand their scale and consider the size of coffee beans and grains of rice. And then continue on to salt and skin cells and blood cells and bacteria. And finally, the most common types of viruses such as measles, HIV, and influenza. You can go even farther to hepatitis and rhinoviruses, which are even smaller. But the point is, in the grand scheme of things, viruses are nothing but a speck of dust on the tree of life. Now let's think about why viruses are even a bad thing. Well, firstly, they're parasitic, which means they hurt others to survive. The only way viruses live is in the death of others. They're also extremely adaptive, meaning they can change constantly, making them hard to kill, like the flu seen here. Viruses are also deadly, often causing pain and suffering. Here's an example of the Spanish flu, which was one of the worst pandemics in modern history. Finally, viruses are also infectious, meaning you can catch a virus from someone else. Sneezing and coughing are the two main ways airborne viruses are transferred. Combination, these 4 traits make viruses very dangerous, and in most cases, incurable. With all these bad things said about viruses, is there any way to treat them? Well, there are some medications, but they're limited to certain viruses and almost never cure the virus permanently. An example would be Tamiflu, which is tailored for the H1N1 flu we had 2 years ago. It was meant to cure that strain, but test trials have shown that it sometimes did not work. Vaccines are another viable option. However, their problem is that they only work within a season or two. Since viruses adapt so fast, you can't keep up with them. Flu shot is a great example of a vaccine used against viruses. Perhaps the best option, if you're already infected, is rest. By allowing your body to heal, you'll give yourself the best fighting chance against viruses. Finally, not getting the virus in the first place will ensure you never get sick. Washing your hands in the after leaving the bathroom is a great example of how to stop the spread of disease and viruses. Do it every time you leave the bathroom. But what if you already have a virus and your body can't handle it? Well, that's where broad spectrum antiviral therapeutics comes in. Don't worry, you don't have to understand that. All you need to know is that it's a drug that can kill any virus you might have without actually hurting you. The research for it began over 15 years ago with cannery. This is a device that uses the technology from cannery to detect bad things floating around in vials of water. The technology then progressed to Panther, which is this black cubicle box that can detect any airborne diseases in its area. Finally, these two developments led to Draco, which is the drug I'll be talking about. Of course, all of this research would not be possible without Todd Ryder, a researcher at the MIT Lincoln Laboratory, whom you can see here working in his lab. Now let's go back to Draco and see how it works. First, the drug goes into cells and attaches itself to RNA, which is something similar to DNA. After attaching itself to RNA, and if the RNA is found to be from a virus, Draco tells the cell to go through apoptosis, which is basically suicide for the cell. And since the RNA in viruses is different from humans, Draco won't kill unaffected cells or attach itself to RNA from human DNA. Viral RNA is also common within the viruses in humans, meaning that Draco should work on most viruses humans have. In other words, Draco kills all the bad cells while leaving all the good ones, which makes every cell happy and keeps everyone healthy. So remember, every time you get sick and have to miss school, there's a cure coming.